You guys probably can already surmise as to who the suspect in this situation was, just going off this headline. And that's why I kind of don't really blame low information people who just get their news from reading the headlines, because what would you gain from this? Okay, a knifeman shot dead in France after fatally stabbing police officer. Okay, trust me, if it was a white guy, if it was some fucking Looney Tune over there in France, sick of seeing these police officers with their goddamn fast food hats just shank a police officer. I believe it was a female officer. We'll get into it shortly. But you probably already know, based on the fact that this was France, there was a knife involved, and there's no descriptors which you would normally see in a situation involving a police shooting. Yeah, it was another one of them migrants of peace, of course. It does say a little bit further down there, a Tunisian national was shot and killed by law enforcement on Friday after stabbing and killing a police officer to death at the entrance of a police station in Paris suburb of Rambouillet. According to multiple reports, French officials later announced that they are opening a terrorism investigation in response to the attack. And that's what we're going to get into, because that's what you got to do when somebody runs at a police officer shouting Allahu Akbar. Yeah, kind of left that one out now, didn't they? But that kind of goes against the mainstream narrative now, doesn't it? It doesn't go against what Emmanuel Macron, who, like we've reported before, he's definitely wrestled away his balls from his old lady. And by old lady, I mean quite a bit older. He's a little bit of a goof. French prosecutors opened a terrorism investigation into a fatal stabbing Friday of a French police officer. Oh, a French police official, sorry. They've got funny titles to go along with their funny little hats. Inside a police station near the historic Rambouillet Chateau outside Paris. Police shot and killed the attacker at the scene. Yay! Authorities said. Anti-terrorism prosecutor Jean-Francois Richard. That is the Frenchest name I've ever read. Wow. I bet you he has a little mustache, a little beret, a small dog, a striped shirt, and a bottle of wine. And it took him a little while to draft up the probe because he was out getting a baguette. Anyways, he told the reporters that his office took over the probe because the attacker had staked out the station, because of the statements he made during the attack, and because he targeted police officials. Well, I already spoiled what he was yelling, but I didn't know that he was staking out the police station, but it tends to go hand in hand now, doesn't it? Richard did not provide details of the attacker's identity or motive. We already know. French media reports identified him as a 37-year-old French resident with no criminal record or record of radicalization. Really? Okay. That's what we're going with. A French judicial officer said the suspect was born in Tunisia, you know, that Catholic hotspot, and that the witness heard him say, repeat after me, Allahu Akbar, Arabic for God is great. Which God? The one that you can't draw? He's just a prophet who ascended on a what was a unicorn or a Pegasus. It flew up to the cloud. This is actually in their fucking holy book, if you can believe it. To meet with God, because you know what? If atheists actually had a set of balls, well, ones that they could visibly see, that they wouldn't have to lift and move their gut out of the way first, they would actually continue to go after Islamo-Leftism as hard as Emmanuel Macron has. Oh, right, but that would actually go against what they're all about, too, because most of them are leftist, hence why none of them really have any audiences left. But at least they can still proselytize to their fucking local bakery. French Prime Minister Jean Castex, sure, rushed to the scene with other officials and pledged the government's determination to fight terrorism in all its forms. Islamic extremists and others have carried out multiple terror attacks in France in recent years and in just the past few months. This year, I can think of 3 other instances. Yeah, including targeting several police officers. Yeah, the one stabbing in Nice, that was definitely a police officer. And then somebody else was beheaded. I forget what they were saying too, right before the action was taken. Anyways, the official killed Friday was a 49-year-old administrative employee who worked at the station for the National Police Service. A National Police spokesperson told the Associated Press. The National Anti-Terrorism Prosecutor's Office opened an investigation into the murder of the person of public authority in relation to a terrorist group. I wonder which one. Probably 2 letters repeated. And it sounds a lot like not my sis, but police are symbols of the Republic. They are France. Valérie Pesquer, president of the Paris region, told reporters at the scene, adding, the face of France was targeted. Some nearly 50-year-old fucking pencil pusher? Okay. No, it really does suck. I'm making some slight asides to it, but this shit just keeps on happening, okay? And as much as I've commended Macron in the past, what has he actually done? He is right. Islamo-Leftism is a threat. And what does he mean by Islamo-Leftism? This weird working relationship that the radical leftists out there, you know the ones, the intersectionalists, the neo-Marxists, I guess they're just kind of returning all of the stupid ideas that were fermented by all of the French intellectuals, i.e. kid touchers from the mid-20th centuries, returning all of their bad ideas back to them. And yeah, they're facing the threat alongside all of the radicals that have migrated up and through France. They're trying to make their way over to the UK, but some of them are getting turned back. Not a whole lot. Eastern Europe is a disaster thanks to the European Union's open borders policy. But all the 19, 20-year-olds who have fucking mountains of student debt and have worthless degrees that don't really amount to anything. Oh, they love their ability to travel and their EU, I don't know, their one world government, whatever these kids are all on about, as I say, and I'm only just a few years older than them, but whatever. Let's get to the heart of this, because yeah, Macron is right, but what is he actually doing about it? And he's got an election to worry about, but they're looking at fortifying that as well. Last October, 18-year-old Chechen refugee Abdullah Anzarov used a cleaver to murder history teacher Samuel Paty on the streets of the Paris suburb. Paty's offense: in a classroom discussion about free speech, he had shown the students a cartoon of Islam's prophet Muhammad. Or maybe it was just some dude named Muhammad. This is the most popular name in the world. Fast-acting police shot and killed Paty's assassin soon after the attack, but not after he was successful. In the aftermath, as French President Emmanuel Macron spoke out forcefully to defend the nation's guiding principles of secularity and free speech. Guess what happens when you start championing secularity, which is the absence of any specific religion? A vacuum is created, and the most power-hungry tend to emerge successful. Ergo, the current state of most of the European Union. Other Western nations expressed their horror, I just see killing and Islamism, and I always think honor killings anyways. Horror at the killing and the steadfast support of France. Yes, the pray with France, the hashtags, the filters, the virtue signaling, the dyeing your hair like the French flag, whatever. But just 3 months later, everything began to change as France began debating new laws to combat Islamism. Just short of putting a little moon and a star, a little yellow one, just on the lapels of every Islamist out there. They were pretty extreme, but you know what? He was on the right track. Train tracks. As France began debating new laws to combat Islamism, or the conservative political brand of Islam, in the most traditional sense of conservative version of Islam, allies started to pull away, fearful that Macron's measures were too harsh, alleging that they promoted Islam hate in the name of the Enlightenment. Oh, that's alright. If it's a binary choice between Islam and the Enlightenment, I know where I line up. Now Macron is facing even more criticism as his latest proposal, a campaign against what he and others called Islamo-Gauchism, or Islamo-Leftism, if you aren't a dirty frog sucker, which they warn is bringing a dangerous perspective and form of cancel culture lifted in part from American university campuses to France. He's right. This is where it all started. The debate reached new heights in February when French Minister for Higher Education, Frédéric Vidal, called for investigation into the impact of what he called militant Islamo-Leftism, or Islamo-Leftist activism, in French academic circles. I love it. I love it. This is just starting, though. It's not saving anybody's life at the moment, but they're at least doing the right things here. The backlash against the campaign has been fast and furious, fueling antagonistic responses both at home and abroad. Why? By bitches? French daily Le Monde called the term Islamo-Leftism hazardous. Oh my god. Yeah, if that was CBS or NBC, that would be dangerous to our democracy. Something retarded like that. France's conference of university presidents called the concept a pseudo-notion. Ah yes, pseudoscience. Popularized by the far right. Yes, Emmanuel Macron, that known leader of the far-right French party. Fucking retards. According to the New York Times, which describes Islamo-Leftism as a term used by conservatives and far-right figures, such as Emmanuel Macron, against those they accuse of being soft on Islamism and focusing instead on Islamophobia, which is a thing that people say, which I don't know if you can properly characterize it, but it's one of those obias, ists, isms that morons just throw out there when they actually don't have any defense for their positions. And a sociologist at France's National Center for Scientific Research, which Vidal has asked to conduct the investigation, told the Times that the term Islamo-Leftism was aimed at delegitimizing debates on race in order to silence them. So they're accusing him of being racist for accurately pointing out the problem. I understand. But the thing is, Macron is right. That's about the only time that you can have right and Macron in a sentence. Not even just looking at the political spectrum, or most of his time as president, but yeah. On this one, even a broken clock can be right twice a day. It's not just the far right who think so. As a liberal Democrat, the author, and so do countless others concerned with the confluence of the far-left victim culture and the victimhood tendencies of radical Islamists, many of whom weaponize the notion of Muslims as victims to radicalize and recruit Muslim youth. Indeed, as early as 2015, British-Pakistani counter-terrorism expert Majid Nawaz observed in the Daily Beast, back when it was a respectable-ish outlet, God, that seems like ages ago, British Muslims are being spoon-fed regressive left sedatives, encouraging a perpetual state of victimhood in order to score their petty ideological points against the West. West. In the name of cultural diversity, aspiration is being stifled. Expectations have been tempered, and because Muslims have their own culture, don't you know, self-segregation and ghettoization have thrived. Although Nawaz was speaking of Muslims in general, Macron's efforts focus on the means by which Islamists exploit that victimhood and the ways that the far left, however unwittingly, plays into their hands. The alliance between the two groups plays out, as Macron cautioned, in the protests, sometimes violent, against pro-Israel speakers on university campuses across the United States in an anti-Semitic boycott, divest, and sanction BDS, movement, and in the anti-Israeli alliance of the so-called Squad. All you need to do is just look through the history. I'm not too familiar with AOCs, but Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib definitely don't like them some Jews, and it's very obvious, and it's just bubbling under the surface. So Macron's right, okay? There's a little bit more to this article. It's quite a good read. What we've seen so far is quite good. I read through it as well in preparation for this, and I need not rehash it anymore. It'll be in the description if you guys want to read through the rest of it. But it is definitely a threat, and describing it as Islamo-Leftism is perfect. Marrying the archaic traditions of the most devout Islamist extremists with the victimhood culture of far leftists, and the results are hazardous. We know where it comes from. It comes from the ideas that were from the French intellectuals, the Derridas, the Michel Foucaults, whatever other pederasts that are out there. All of those ideas that used to just ferment in the gender studies wings of the university, but have eventually worked their way up to every other institution out there. You can't name a major corporation that doesn't have a diversity wing to it, that isn't infested with radicals in their human resources department. We could take it a step further, but that'll be another video topic for another time. It's just important to call out the people who do this, but it's also even more important to follow up on it. So do something about that, Macron. And now we got to follow up on a whole bunch of other stuff, because I've been teasing one of the topics that we're going to be talking about for quite a long while, but we got to briefly touch on the George Floyd verdict, the Macchiata Bryant, the justified stabbing, shooting, carving, and a couple other things. And with that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.